Hi, and welcome to the first episode of the Yarn Geek podcast. My name is Denise, and you can find me on Ravelry as Canarysong, and I am Kitty231 on Instagram. So just a little introduction. I'm coming to you right now from Brooklyn, New York. I've been a knitter for about 8 years, but I haven't knit continuously during that time. I would have what I would call knitting moods, like maybe for like once the weather started getting cold, I would feel like an urge to knit, and then I would just start knitting hats or whatever, and then or sweaters, and then once it got warm again, I would just stop. So I wouldn't call myself an experienced knitter for that reason. I haven't been continuously doing it, but I have started doing it a lot in this past year. So just to explain how I got back into it was my best friend became pregnant, and then so I just started going crazy and like knitting baby stuff, and I putting all that stuff in Ravelry and just getting back into it. And then I was listening to audio knitting podcasts, and I discovered that there was a lot of video knitting podcasts. So I was watching a lot of those, and then I found the Knitting Expat podcast, which is done by Mina. And back in November, I heard that she said she was coming to New York and she was going to do a knitting meetup. And so she put the call out there for anybody to come to the meetup if they wanted to. And I wasn't sure about if I should, just because I'm pretty introverted. I think a lot of knitters are for some reason. And so yeah, I just sent her a message on Ravelry, and she said, yeah, sure, just come and meet up. And we met up at Gauge Intention during a Plucky Knitter trunk show, and I got to meet a lot of podcasters there, all pretty much people that I've watched their shows before. So I met Tanya from the Knitting Spring podcast, Jenny from the Tiny Paper Foxes podcast. I met Kristen from the Yarngasm podcast, Carly from the Made or Carlinergy podcast, and I met Jacqueline, who wasn't doing one now at that point, but has since started her own podcast called Brooklyn Knit Folk. And it was just nice to be around knitters. I never really, talked to knitters before. Nobody in my life really knit, or they don't, probably, they knit one or two things, or just not really into it, or don't know how to knit besides the knit stitch, just doing a scarf. So it was just nice to be around people who into my same interests, and you can talk to them about knitting and they don't look at you weird, or they have no idea what you're talking about. So I was debating if I should start one, because there's just so many out there, but I just said, why not? So the reason why it's called Yarn Geek is because, well, I'm pretty nerdy. I like comic books and science fiction, fantasy stuff. That's how I met my boyfriend Ryan. He's also into comics, and so we just met because we have the same interests. So I'm just gonna go on to my finished objects. So as I said, my friend Gina was visiting me in October, and I was just showing her my yarn stash. She's interested in knitting as well, but I just try to encourage her, and she just hasn't picked it up yet, but maybe someday. So she was looking through my stash, and she found I don't own a yarn Swift, so I probably at some point I was trying to unravel some yarn, and it got into a big tangled mess, and she saw it and she's like, well, why don't I asked my husband to do it because he likes to untangle stuff. Like, she's had necklaces that get tangled up, and he just calmly, fixes it for her. And I felt kind of bad to ask him that, but he said he didn't mind. So as kind of like, you know, I just felt like I had to knit him something since he went through all the trouble to unravel my mess. So I sent my friend like a bunch of patterns on Ravelry. Like he wanted a hat, so I found a bunch of hat patterns on Ravelry, and he picked the Antler hat by TincatKnits, which is I thought was a great choice because I've really been into knitting cables lately. So I was really happy when he when he picked this. And he wanted exactly how it was the male model was wearing it, and he was wearing like, you know, this exact color. So this is exactly what he wanted. So I just had this yarn in my stash. It's Lion Brand Heartland. So, you know, it's just, I don't want to give somebody something that's like hand washed. He can just throw this in the washing machine. So yeah, I really like this hat, and I might knit it for myself at some point. And then my friend Gina wanted a hat too, and she picked out this yarn I had in my stash, and I had knitted this hat for myself as well, so she just liked that. And so this is the Molly hat, which is a free pattern. Again, also a cable right in the middle. I really like this style. And this is Knit Picks Swish worsted in the Bordeaux colorway. I didn't realize this, but I'm a big fan of purple, and I didn't realize this until I was just looking through my stash and just like what colors I own. I do tend to wear purple, but not exclusively, so that was a little bit of a surprise for me. So these were supposed to be Christmas gifts, and I just hadn't sent them out because I wanted to show them. So Gina, if you're watching, they're gonna be in the mail soon. Okay, what's next? So I started knitting socks. Well, I knitted up a pair of toddler socks for Aria, which is Gina's daughter. She's 2 years old now. And I haven't knitted any adult socks, and just watching everybody knitting socks, I wanted to make myself a pair of socks. So Gina lives in Ohio now, and I was visiting her, and on my way back I cast on my first pair of adult socks. And I had so I live in New York, so it was like maybe a 10-hour bus ride from Ohio. So I had a lot of time to knit socks for myself. And I got home, and Ryan wanted some socks for himself too. So he's a size 12. So these are gigantic. I think it probably took me like 2 weeks to knit these. And he wanted these to match. So I think I did a pretty good job, except there's like a little blue here. I mean, it's not a big deal. And so I knit, these are AfterThought heel socks by Linnerman. So this is what I also knit for myself, is my first pair of socks. Because if it seemed pretty straightforward, and I like that you're not breaking up, the stripe pattern, and then so what you knit is that you knit this part, and then you put in like a waist yarn, and you continue knitting, and then you go back and you knit the heel. So it was really cool that it just ended in the red. So I had some drops Fabel in red, so I just added red heels. And these are patents Kroy in blue stripe Ragg colorway, I think. They're pretty sturdy, warm socks. And since then he told me he wants me to knit him some worsted weight socks, so that's going to be coming up probably in the next few months. But he hasn't worn these yet, so we'll see. So yeah, I'm going pretty fast in my finished objects. But okay, my next one is this Force Awakens hat. So with Star Wars coming out, I really wanted to knit something Star Wars related. I had originally bought yarn to do a Star Wars double knit scarf, but I've never double knit anything in my life, and I just couldn't wrap my head around how you do double knit. And I bought the yarn pretty much like a month before the movie was coming out, and I was like, I'm never gonna finish this scarf in time. And then I was checking Ravelry one day, and this pattern was up, and it was just perfect timing. And it seems like everybody had the same idea, because last time I checked, it was over 300 projects, which is crazy for something that came out in November. By December to have so many projects. So I don't have that much experience doing Farrell. And the last time I did Farrell, it was a big mess. I tried to knit a hat. I had the same problem with this hat, is that my gauge is super tight. Knitting Farrell, I knit English style, and I don't know how to knit with my left hand yet. So I constantly like having to drop the color and change to the other color. And I think for that reason, my gauge is super tight. So I knit the large size, and good thing I did, because if I knit the woman's size, it would not fit my head at all. So like the ribbing is a bit loose, and then around here, it's a bit tight on my head. Like sometimes I feel like the hat is just slowly creeping off my head as I'm walking, just because my gauge is just so tight. And also my row gauge is completely off, because I knit all these charts, and it said at the end of the pattern that it should, cover your ears. Well, it didn't cover my ears. So I knit this little part of the first chart here, and I had to knit 10 rows of plain stockinette for it to fit over my head, just to fit over my ears. So yeah, I really need to, I think this year I really need to sit down and figure out how to do Farrell. And I used a different chart for the last chart. Somebody had made, originally I think they're supposed to be like little lightsabers here, but I changed it and I put Darth Vader in there instead. And, it's okay. I think the colors just don't really fit with him. The person that made the chart did, black and white hat, so it looked better. And also the colors were a little weird. I ordered this yarn online, and just looking at this color is supposed to be, so the yarn is Cascade 220 Sport. This is, white, robin, egg blue, and then it's supposed to be, this color here is supposed to be Como blue. And on the photos and everything, just checking Ravelry, it looks like it's like a turquoise blue. But then when I knit this up, it looks kind of greenish. And I was just like, what is this? Am I seeing things? And then I asked Ryan, does this look green or blue to you? And he said, yeah, it looks kind of green. So it's not really how I imagined this hat would come up, but I mean, I finished it in time to watch Star Wars, and to wear it out when we stood online for like 3 hours, because we tried to get reserved tickets for that night. It was impossible, just because, New York, it's just so many people everywhere, and everybody's trying to watch Star Wars, and the site where I tried to buy tickets from crashed, and I couldn't get assigned seating, so we had to just get a general ticket. So we had to wait in line outside for 3 hours just to get a good seat, and we got a good seat, so it was worth it. And the time flew by, just us talking and stuff, so it wasn't so bad. But yeah, I'm not entirely happy with this hat, but I don't know, what can I do? Maybe I'll learn, how to do Farrell better, and then I'll try to knit this again at some point. Let's see. Okay, so Little Bombers Knits podcast was doing Christmas Eve a sock cast on. So on Christmas Eve, I went to visit my cousin out on Long Island. So on our way there, it's probably like an hour drive. On our way there, I cast on a pair of socks, and I finished them on New Year's Eve because I just wanted to get them done before the year was over. So here they are. These are Knit Picks Felici in the Fanciful colorway. Yeah, so I just did AfterThought heel socks again. I'm not 100% happy with these socks because you can see there's a hole here. I know a lot of people tend to knit the fish kiss heel socks, and they say they don't have, it doesn't leave a hole. And so yeah, I have that pattern. I just haven't bothered to look up how to how to knit that heel. So that's one of those things I want to do this year. And I was also kind of rushing because I had knit both of the tubes, and then it was like New Year's Eve, and I only had to do the heels, and I was rushing to finish these socks, and so I probably wasn't so careful when I was picking up on the side, and I left a little hole, and I can go back and fix those, but because it's a little bit annoying because these are self-striping that I have to, use I have to find this exact stripe color that fits for this to fix the holes. And I don't know if you can see, but I have a little bit of laddering here. And my preferred method is magic loop. I knit them at one time, but for some reason I have there's a little gap here, and I thought that's mostly for people that knit socks with DPNs. So I don't know. I think I have to work on that as well. I don't really like to knit with DPNs. I have some metal ones, and I don't know. I feel like it slides around too much. And since there's so many needles, I'm afraid I'm going to drop a stitch. And, I knit on the subway a lot. And I'm just afraid I'm going to drop a needle, which has happened before. So with magic loop, that doesn't happen. Maybe I'm going to try to get some wooden needles at some point. Just to see, it'd probably be better to knit in public like that. So yeah, I was like rushing to get these done, and I did. So these are my last knit for 2015. So yeah, that's all my finished objects. Sorry, I'm looking down at my notes just so I don't forget anything. So my works in progress. So Mina is doing a January sockathon, I think. So she's just trying to knit as many socks as she can in January. And for this year, since I've already knit I've knitted 4 pairs of just plain socks. It's been getting a little bit boring. So I was thinking, for this year, I really want to knit some pattern socks. So yesterday, I started the Hermione's Everyday Sock, which is, a free pattern, and like thousands of people. There's like thousands of projects of this already on Ravelry. So I started knitting them yesterday, and it's been pretty fast going. And this is a bag I sewed for myself. I like the little kittens. Just a little bit about sewing. I started sewing back in August. I took a class at Brooklyn General to learn how to knit pajamas. I've always wanted to sew pajamas. I've always wanted to sew. Both of my grandmothers sew, and I just I don't know. I always felt like something was stopping me from learning. I have no idea why. So I just decided to take this class because I've had a sewing machine for years, and I just haven't, taken the next step to start to use it. So, so I made the pajamas. They're pretty easy. And since then, I was looking online how to make like these little bags. A lot of people have these little project bags. So I found like a free pattern, just Googling around, and I made this bag. I also made, this is the first bag I made. It's like it's supposed to be a cosmetic makeup bag, but I use these for to hold my projects. So anyway, these are my socks, and I just dropped my yarn on the floor. But so this is coming along. I think I've done like, so I did a 1x1 cuff, and then for like 20 rows. So usually I knit, I tend to knit 2 inches for the cuff, and then I knit, I think 4 inches, and then I put in the, this is from AfterThought here, I put in the AfterThought part, and then I knit until I you know, I'm ready to decrease. But with this, I'm actually following a pattern. It says to knit this for 20 rows, and then knit, this is a 4 row pattern repeat for 18 pattern repeats. Right now I think I'm on 15. So it's really cool. I like the little textured stitch. And this is the Knit Picks Stroll Tweed in the what is it called? The Firecracker Heather colorway. So I'm really enjoying knitting these. Probably gonna get to the heel flap today if I have the time. And I'm knitting these on my Haya Sharps size 1. And yeah, I love these needles. The last few slaps I've been knitting in Knit Picks fixed circular needles, and just like the difference between the two is like night and day, because these are so smooth. There's no in the Knit Picks, like the yarn gets stuck on the joint, and I don't have a problem with this. So I think that's why I was knitting these faster, is because I constantly had to pull the yarn away from that little joint area, and it's just like annoying. But I mean, these are super cheap, so if I need the needles, or my needles are busy on other projects, I'm gonna have to use those. And the next thing I'm working on, which I haven't worked on in a while, is a shawl for my mom. So the shawl is called the Turtle's Journey Shawl by Heather Anderson, and it's a paid pattern on Ravelry. So show that off a bit. It is a crescent-shaped shawl, and it follows the turtle's journey from sand to sea. My mom, from sand to sea. My mom is a big turtle fan. She loves like collecting little turtle figurines. And so I thought this was the perfect Christmas gift for her, but at some point I was knitting other gifts, and I knew I was not going to finish this shawl in time. So I made her a pair of simple house slippers, I think by Temple of Knit, which is like a free pattern on Ravelry, and it was super quick. I knit like one slipper one day, and then the next day, and I used some mysterious yarn I had no. I was pretty sure it's a worsted weight yarn, but I didn't have a label, and so I just used those. She loved them, and now she's like, oh, she doesn't want to wear them around the house because she doesn't want to get them dirty. She's just wearing them to bed. And I was like, fine, whatever. Just as long as you wear them, I don't care. So I started this in December. I'm gonna pick it up soon. So I'm just doing this is like a textured part of it. And I think I've done like 6 repeats of the pattern. And then you do like a setup row, and then you start knitting the turtle part. And then there's like a lace edge. I think you have to pick up all the stitches on the end and do like a lace edge section. And again, I'm knitting this in Knit Picks. There's a lot of Knit Picks going on today because I ordered a bunch of yarn during their Black Friday sale, so that's why. So this is Knit Picks gloss fingering in the clove colorway. So there's a small size and a large size, and I'm doing the large size. So I really need to start. She has no idea I'm doing this, so you know, she's not waiting for it or anything, but I don't want it to just lay around and, you know, me not knit on air for, you know, me to just forget about it. So that's all my works in progress. My acquisitions. So I went to the Voolenvine trunk show last month, and everybody was in the summer was like knitting on Christmas socks. I don't have any Christmas yarn, so I picked this up. This is Blitzed in the Deck the Halls colorway. So this is Voolenvine yarns. So I mean, it's Christmas yarn, but it doesn't, you know, scream at you that it's Christmas. And you know, obviously Christmas passed already, but I think I'm gonna make myself a shawl out of this. I've been looking at patterns, but I'm not sure exactly what. But at some point, this is gonna be a shawl for me. So for Christmas, so yeah, I said earlier that I don't own a yarn swift, and I have not own a yarn swift, but for Christmas, I put it on my wish list, and my grandma got me. This is a Premier Knitter yarn swift. I just was, you know, thinking what can I ask people for Christmas, and I found this on Amazon, and I just put this on my wish list. I haven't used it yet, so who knows, you know. I'll let you guys know if there's any problems, but I don't think there will be. And another Christmas gift that Ryan got me, which is pretty, you wouldn't think this would be a yarn related gift, but it is for me. He got me a Gizmo headlamp, and funny thing is that, you know, I knit a lot here, and it tends to get dark. There's not a lot of windows at night. So at night, sometimes I feel like my eyes are straining to knit. And he has this headlamp, and I just said, "Oh, can I use this? You know, just to test it out." And it worked, you know, wonderfully. I can see everything, and even at night, if we're watching a movie or something, he can turn off the lights, and I can still knit, and it doesn't bother him at all. So for Christmas, he got me this. So, you know, it might be a little strange. You wouldn't think that this would be like a knitting accessory, but it is for me. So it's just a headlamp. Just put it on, and you can, you know, move around this, and it's just, you know, it's a light, you know, headlamp, and has a really long battery life, and it just uses, you know, I think AA batteries, AAA batteries, something like that. So there you go. So yeah. Just one second. So I'm really into podcasts, not just knitting podcasts. So I thought I'd recommend some other topics of podcasts. So I've been listening to the Star Wars Minute podcast, done by Pete and Alex. They've been doing this for, I think, at least 3 years. They review every Star Wars movie minute by minute. So like A New Hope is like over 200 episodes, and each episode is about 15 minutes, and they break it down minute by minute. You know, it sounds like it's a bit much, but it actually isn't, because they have different guests, and, you know, those guests have their opinions, and they have their experiences with Star Wars, so they talk about, you know, how they got into Star Wars and stuff like that. So I've really been enjoying listening to that. I've also started listening to the Geek History Lesson podcast done by Allison and Jason. So it's pretty much a history lesson related to some sort of geek topic. So like one episode they do on Batgirl, one episode they did, I think, James Bond, and it's just cool because they give like a quick overview about that character or the topic. So if you have no idea, you know, who the Flash is, you just listen to the episode and give you a brief overview. You know, I mean, some of these characters are over like 50 years old, so I mean, you can get a little crazy going in depth into the character, but if you just want like a quick overview about them, I would recommend that. So yeah, this mom has been wanting to go see The Force Awakens, and she's only saw A New Hope, and she's managed to stay spoiler free all these years, which is crazy because as a kid I must have watched those movies like a million times. I mean, I still have the VHS tapes that I got. This is probably back in like 1994. Um, and I've had the DVDs as well. I don't own the Blu-rays because I'm not happy with. They just constantly keep changing them. I'm hoping one day they release the originals. So anyway, this week it's fun to sit down and watch Disney movies with my mom because she has no idea what was coming. No idea what was gonna happen. So it was cool just to share that with her. Um, so yeah, and then she went to go see it with my dad yesterday, and she really enjoyed it. And talking to her on the phone and just talking about like her theories about what's gonna happen, all that. It was pretty fun. So anyway, I think that's about it for the first episode. I actually talked longer than I thought I would. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna do these every week or every other week. I think I'm gonna see where I am in a week's time, and if I have a lot to talk about, then I'll do another one. If not, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So, please get in touch with me on Ravelry. Again, I am Canarysong on Ravelry. And on Instagram, I am Kitty231. So I would love to hear from you. I really want to connect with more knitters and just be, more part of the knitting community. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.